one of your best lit sequences in the entire episode is the opening credits. That's not great. Giving your main characters the glory of being on the front line when we all know there isn't a chance in hell that any of them are dying in the initial onslaught. I'd have given back all the sins if fucking Sam was taken out by a stray arrow in the first few minutes. Then I'd have spent the episode caring about who was going to survive instead of fucking around with my contrast settings.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Took your time.
Attempting to conceal your late sin behind a you took your time greeting. Now you have two sins. Man, they've got a nice-sized army here, ready and willing to fight the dead, but it still makes no sense that the USS Enterprise isn't here to help the fight. Just in case I never get a chance to sin favor the bold from Season 6 of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, this seemed like as good a place as any to do it. I'm actually glad Wolfie the White is here. Finally gives me someone to root for. Not because I'm particularly attached to him, but because he's the only damn character I'm going to be able to see. And if you like this shot, you're going to love the rest of the episode. Okay, if you haven't guessed it already, this Sins video will have a theme. Just wanted to let you know rather than, keeping you in the dark. I find it very strange that John isn't on the front line with his people like he was for the Battle of the Bastards, or basically every single time there's any fighting at all. I know he's the only other person that knows how to fly a dragon, but do they really need a pilot? Can Danny not just tell them to do what dragons do in the general direction of the bad guys? Sir Davos is acting as if he knows the figure in the distance is Melisandre. And that is some retina-defying superhuman visioning levels of total bullshit. Maybe if it was daylight, the distinctive red hair would be a giveaway, but she's wearing a fucking hood? Oh, yo. I'm glad all the Dothraki heard Jorah. The back row could have very easily been a Dothraki kebab. Seems like Melisandre should have given at least a heads up as to what she was going to do. Also, why are the Dothraki the only ones that get the eternal flame advantage? If you're going to bring spells to class, Melisandre, you need to bring enough for everyone. Also, this is a cool visual, but everyone's acting as if Melisandre just turned these things into fucking lightsabers when they're just on fire. If this is really going to make a difference, why didn't they do it themselves? It's exactly what they do with arrows, so stop fucking about and get those shafts oiled. Wait.
There's no need to execute me, Sir Davos. I'll be dead before the dawn.
This works. This episode has so many long stares that I can only assume the set was as poorly lit as the show itself, and that this is just everyone's way of making sure that their eyes have adjusted before accidentally delivering their lines to a wall. So part of the battle plan was just to have Jorah and the Dothraki blindly charge the army of the dead. They had the likes of Daenerys, Jorah, Grey Worm, Sir Davos, Tyrion, Jon, and Jaime planning this shit, and this was the best they could come up with? This will be a long night indeed, but mostly for the audience. Okay, this is a pretty badass shot, and since I probably won't be able to see the rest of the episode well enough to remove any more sins, I guess we'll take it off here. However, if your big set piece is so dark that you have to rely on flaming swords to allow us to see what the hell is going on, I think you may be taking the realism thing a touch too seriously, especially when that realism doesn't extend to a very angry ice smurf raising an army of zombies on the back of a dragon. Wouldn't it have been a good idea to launch these badass siege weapons before you send in your first wave of Dothraki to the slaughter? I can see waiting until you know the enemy's within range, but they fire them before the Dothraki even make contact, so what do they know now that they didn't know a few minutes ago? I mean, why should they show the battle between the Dothraki and the Storming Dead when we can just see everyone else's expression as they try to ascertain how the battle is going? That was a much better idea.
The Night King is coming.
The dead are already here.
What the f*** is Dany doing? Did she seriously expect the Night King to fly in first and politely present himself for inspection before sending in his minions? The plan was to stay back, protect Bran, and lure in the Night King. Nothing that's happened in the first 5 minutes of this battle is surprising enough to warrant immediately abandoning that plan. Earlier, somebody shouted, presumably to make sure they don't wipe out their own people. But since that battle's clearly done, why didn't they reload and start firing again? Also, why are these incredibly long-range siege weapons positioned on what has very quickly become the front line? Do they never get used again? Why wouldn't you use these again? If you, like us, had been waiting 8 years for this epic fight between the undead, the unsullied, the wildlings, and all the other assorted humans, well, then here's a tip how to enjoy it best. Close all the curtains, f*** around with the brightness on your TV, and then take your remote, throw it through the damn screen in frustration, and then just imagine something better in your head.
I don't know how to use it.
Sticking with the pointy end.
We got callbacks, y'all. I mean, no offense to Samwell's fighting abilities. Well, actually, I mean all of the offense because I find it ridiculous that he survived this long in close contact combat.
Sam, get up!
Friend saves friend in combat only to then get killed themselves immediately afterward. Cliché. Also, one of the unique things about the early seasons of Game of Thrones was that you truly felt no one was safe and anyone could die at any point. The problem with killing poor Ed here is that, yes, it could randomly happen, but he's just lovable enough to make me sad and not important enough to make me care. So now I'm just sad and left wondering, why Ed? Why Ed? Now, in fairness, I've never flown a dragon, but they're capable of flying straight up. Yes, I just feel like rising above the storm would be a better option than blindly flying around inside of it. John actually believes that Danny would be able to hear him. What is this, a battlefield for ants?
Light the trench! Light the trench!
Are we supposed to believe that Davos can hear Grey Worm? Why does no one in this episode seem to grasp the concept of how sound travels? Oh, good. Glad we're getting more of the How to Train Your Dragon in the Fog scenes. This episode is 80 minutes, and this episode did not need to be 80 minutes.
She can't see us. Welcome to the party, pal!
If Melisandre can conjure up enough fire to fill up an entire trench, there are clearly some skills of hers they're not putting to use against the army of the dead ice people. Meanwhile, on Tales from the Crypt.
At least we're already in a crypt.
I'm laughing, but holy shit, dude, there are children and terrified civilians down here. Then probably aren't as accepting of your dark humor as the audience at home is.
If we were up there, we might see something everyone else is missing.
I can say, with confidence, you would not.
Maybe we should have stayed married.
And maybe we should just go ahead and skip.
The things I did.
Everything you did brought you where you are now. Home.
Never mind about betraying Robb, stealing Winterfell, killing Sir Roderick, abandoning Sansa, and his actual sister Yara. Oh, and those 2 kids he executed because he thought they were his adopted brothers. All is forgiven because he came home? Great, you've got the White Walkers stalled as the trench is burning. This might be a great time to start shooting arrows and killing as many as you can. Oh, just gonna wait until they form a plan to get past the burning trench? Great call. Also, the fire mode is pretty badass, but did no one see this tactic coming? I mean, this thing is, what, 10 feet wide? Dead overcame it in a matter of minutes. How was this ever a viable defense? Game of the World War Z Army of Darkness.
Clegane!
Lord Beric here knows damn well that Clegane has a pretty severe aversion to flamey things, so perhaps beckoning him with a very sharp flamey thing isn't the best way of getting him back in the game. Okay, if they're going to show one piece of combat clearly, I'm glad it was Arya kicking all of the undead ass. She f***ing rules. But this does prove that somebody putting this together knows how to shoot action, and I wish they'd been given a bigger say in how to put this episode together rather than whoever thought it would be better to make us really feel what it's like to fight our way out of a slightly amber paper bag. Looks like Lady Mormont went to the Rickon Stark school of not getting the f*** out of the way of a stampeding giant. So not only did the Winterfell gang not lead the fight with the dragons, their best option, the zombies decided to wait to bring in the zombie giant. Neither of these parties deserves a win today. Man, this is f***ed up even for Game of Thrones. And fortunately, this mindless giant will play with its food long enough and at eye level enough for Lady Mormont to stab it in the brain. Look, I know this is supposed to be an epic moment, but it's hard to get excited when it feels more staged than Éowyn facing down Sauron. I suppose now is as good a time as any to ask how exactly does the dragon breath work and how long does it last? I mean, the dead dragon seems to be able to sustain this indefinitely, so why would it stop before finishing the job? And why don't we see more of Daenerys and Jon lighting up the army of the dead now that they're committed to the Bran, he'll be fine plan? The point is, I don't know whether I'm supposed to be worried for the good guys facing this unstoppable force or pissed off at them for not using their own. So they have super hearing sensitive enough to hear a drop of blood across the room? Since when was that a f***ing thing? Arya gets out from under the table and behind another bookcase in the second and a half it takes this zombie to bend down and look for her. Arya's pretty badass, but she's not the f***ing Flash. F***ing hell, Arya! Does she just walk around corners with her blade up at all times? What if that had been Theon or Jorah? Wait, can we actually make this Theon or Jorah instead? I get the instinct to act fast, but why would you throw away your awesome sword imbued with power by an actual god, knowing there's a good chance you won't be able to get that shit back? This is like Obi-Wan throwing his f***ing lightsaber at a group of stormtroopers without the ability to force pull it back. The YouTube gods forbid us from playing the music, but the opening chords of this part of the score sound straight up like the opening of NSYNC's Bye Bye Bye. And it ain't no lie that I'd give back all the sins if we got a battle montage with these sweet, sweet vocal tones of one Mr. Justin Timberlake and one Mr. JC Chazé backing it up.
I know you.
And I know you.
Well, that's exciting and useful information for this episode to be taking its time with presenting. 80 minutes long. Just thought I'd mention that again.
What do we say to the god of death?
Not today.
We got even more callbacks, y'all. How is either writer staying on their dragon when they're in this position? And for anyone who says they're holding on tight, I hate you. Jorah translates Drogon's roar perfectly into, "Hey, Daenerys is going to be in some big trouble. We need you to ex machina some shit. Meet us there in 10.
Dracarys.
Cool, but weren't Jon and Daenerys armed with any dragon glass? The one thing known to be effective against the White Walkers? No one anticipated the supernatural creature able to raise the dead would attempt to raise the dead. Might have been tricky in the heat of battle, but wouldn't stabbing your own dead with dragon glass, just to be safe, be better than having to face them all over again? Earlier, Tyrion protested that his brain was being wasted down here, yet neither he nor anybody else seemed to note the inherent flaw in hiding in a crypt filled with dead bodies while being invaded by a creature whose ability to raise the dead features pretty prominently on their resume. The dead have been attacking in hordes this entire episode, but are now running in one at a time, so Theon and his merry men can easily pick them off with their flaming arrows. Dragon Ex Machina. But to be fair, there should have been a hell of a lot more of these throughout the episode. So am I also saying there weren't enough Dragon Ex Machinas? Yes. Yes, I am. Hey, you know those big flappy appendages on the side of your giant lizard? Yeah, those aren't just fancy umbrellas. When flapped, they negate the need to be on the damn ground, which is the only place any of these guys can even remotely cause you a problem. During this sequence, we essentially see every single main character get overwhelmed by undead cannon fodder, and yet Jorah is the only one who dies. I'm not saying I wanted them all dead, just don't expect to feel any kind of tension or suspense when what you're showing me has no impact on the end result. I realize the fire is blue so we know it's the Night King's dragon, but that doesn't make blue dragon flames any less of a sin.
You're a good man.
Now, go and run headfirst into the Night King instead of attempting to buy any more time. I'm honestly not sure if they're about to fight or fuck, and I'm also not sure which I'd rather see. I mean, it can't be any weirder than Theon trying to fuck his sister. Shouting at a dragon. Seriously though, what exactly was Jon's game plan here? This is literally giving up and offering your body up to be barbecued. That means no helping Bran, no saving Winterfell, and no more Westeros. Fortunately, Arya has a bit more sense, but he doesn't know that. After all he's been through, this is where he throws in the towel. Okay, that was fucking cool. Sure is handy that every single one of these creatures is linked to the Night King. I mean, this was a huge fucking gamble and they'd have been completely screwed otherwise. Also, it looks like the White Walker army went to the blip school of dying very gradually instead of all at once. The TVSins University should really think about getting a bigger campus. I guess I won't be needing this anymore.
What's going on? Who turned off the lights?
Move! Well, it's a very attractive proposition, gentlemen, but unfortunately not practical. You see, my medium is light. It'll be pitch dark. I won't be able to see a thing.
I don't know, but I've been told. I don't know, but I've been told. Eskimo pussy is mighty cold. Eskimo pussy is mighty cold.
Hiccup! Get me down from here!
Let us out!
At least we're already in a crypt.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
You might be surprised at the lengths I'd go to avoid joining the army of the dead. I could think of no organization less suited to my talents.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent.
Hey, Lord of the Flame! Your tail's on fire.
As you wish. I'm not dead.
Incoming